What is going on, traders? We got a lot to talk about. You are not going to want to miss this. So I need you to lock in, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So right now we are looking at the NQ 4-hour time frame. And so far things are going to according to plan. We talked about this in the last two videos where I do think we're going to see previous highs, if not all-time highs. And so far things are looking really good. We're looking at NQ 4-hour time frame and we are heading towards 21,900. We talked about this level in the last video or two, and so far things are looking really good. So what happened today was we pretty much had consolidated right above this trend. We've been mounting this trend all day, and then we saw a little pump towards the upside. Nothing too crazy just yet, but one thing we want to see is a move above 21,780. We'll just say 21,800 as a psych level, and then we can start seeing that move towards 21,900. If you want to count your psych level, there is a potential move towards 22,000 on the table. Now, I do imagine that we are going to see some type of sell off pretty soon. And when I say sell off, I don't mean a crash and burn or anything like that. I do think there is potential for some type of rollover effect. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about when we get to the ETF, such as a SPY and triple Qs. And so we look at the ES. And your key level here for the ES to watch out for is this little supply and demand zone right here. Well, I guess I wouldn't call it little. It's a pretty big supply and demand zone. And so what's important to note here is that we are heading towards the levels where Jerome Powell originally tanked the market. You see it right here. And so I do think once we head towards this area that we are going to see some type of sell-off or rollover effect. Again, we'll get deeper into that once we get to the SPY and triple Qs. And so 6,100, between 6,100 and 6,120 is where you want to be careful at. You want to practice caution. At least that's what I'm going to do. You do what you want with this information. But again, that is the level that I'm going to look forward to and that I expect some type of cool down effect across the market. So we're not quite there yet. We're pretty close. We're not quite there yet. But if we're correlating the NASDAQ and ES, it seems like things are making sense for us to see some type of sell off. And so let's get into SPY. And so we're above 598. We're finally got above 598. We got above 600. We got above 602. We closed above 602, and we're pretty close. If not, we hit about 604, somewhere between 603, 604. And so again, we are right at the levels where Jerome Powell originally tanked the market. And remember, I warned you guys about this area here multiple times. Every time we hit this area, we saw a sell-off, and I kept warning you guys over and over about that 598 level. But now we're well above that level. And so what can we see happen from here? Now, what I will say is that it is important to note that we have never retested this trend. We broke above it and we never came back down to it. Now, we go to the daily time frame, and this is how everything is starting to add up and make sense, right? We go to the daily time frame and we have this gap all the way at 594. We also have us a reversal hammer pattern. Now, in case you're skeptical about this pattern and maybe you think I'm taking it a little too serious, or maybe you don't even believe it's a reversal pattern, that's completely fine. But if we go back in time and give me a moment here, if we go back in time and we look for this exact pattern, it's pretty much right here, right? We see this pattern all the way back here. It's not exactly, perfect or anything like that, and you shouldn't expect perfection in the market. But even here as well, you see the exact same pattern. And every time this pattern showed up so far, and I probably could find more if I really put effort towards it, but you see a rollover effect, right? You see a slight rollover. Even here, you see somewhat of a rollover. Now, here it's not really that crazy of a sell off. I mean, you got like a 5-10 point sell off, but here you got a significantly better sell off, for lack of better wording. So every time this pattern seems to form, you do get some type of rollover effect. And so we go back over here, and I mean, even here you see the same thing. It's not the exact same pattern. You do have a slight wick above, but again, you see some type of sell off. And so I do imagine that there is potential for another rollover effect. And why do I think that's going to be the case? Well, again, like I said before, Jerome Powell spoke here, and that's when we saw a sell off. So bears are very much present here. Bears are very strong in this area. And in order for us to break Jerome Powell's levels around 604, I do imagine that we're going to need not good news, but excellent, great news in regards to either rate cuts or maybe Donald Trump says something insane. He's been on a rampage when it comes to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So I do imagine in order for us to break out of here, we're going to need really really good news. So key levels I would look out for is 604. If we can get above 604, I would say 605 psych level, then you can start looking at a move towards previous highs at around 608.5, 608.6 range. And then we'll have to see what happens from there. If we break above that, then we can definitely obviously start seeing moves towards all-time highs. 610, highest I'm looking at least for the short term, is 614. And so what are we talking about when we're talking about this rollover effect, right? Because I want to get back to that. So again, we're at a very key area. There's a lot of turbulence here. There's a lot of bears here. And so what I imagine can happen, and it's not written in stone or anything like that, but if this is a reversal pattern, all right, if it is a reversal pattern, we could see a rollover effect heading all the way towards 594, fill this gap before we see another leg up. I do imagine that a lot of retail traders are nostalgic right now. Their eyes are getting big. We're above 600. They're very excited and things like that. But we are at a very key area. And right now, I just can't see what news can potentially come out at least tomorrow that can cause us to break above this. So either we consolidate here in this area until we get good news, or we see some type of rollover effect and start selling off until we get good news. And then we start heading towards this gap fill at 594. Now, there is a scenario where I'm wrong, right? I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not always right. If we break above 604, I think there's a chance. Okay, I do think there's a chance if we break and hold above 604, because a lot of you take breaks literal and think that as soon as a stock breaks something that it just needs to continue to go up. No, that's how you get stop hunted. That's how you get trapped. So you want to see a break and hold, break retest. You see these terms used a lot in the market. So this is pretty much what I'm looking at right now. I want you guys to practice caution. I'm going to practice caution here. You do what you want, but it's very important that we be cautious in this area because, again, Jerome Powell originally spoke here and we broke below 598, and we saw what happened, right? We broke all the way down to about 579, and then we started to see consistent retest towards 598, 602 range, and headed all the way towards that gap fill at 576. And so another scenario here, I mean, if you look here, we're very illiquid to the downside. I mean, you have three gaps towards the downside on the SPY. And so if we compare that to maybe short term past or something like that, right here, I mean, you have two gaps towards the downside, and then there's like a fair value gap in this area as well. So you can count that as your third gap if you want. You don't have to. But again, very illiquid area. And look what happened here. We started to see that slow rollover effect in order to start filling these gaps towards the downside. Now, we didn't do it right away, of course, and we even made another gap, which I don't think is going to be a scenario that happens here unless we get really bad news. But again, I think this same scenario could potentially happen here, where we just see that rollover effect. We start heading towards 594, everyone starts panicking, and then we start seeing a move much higher, because I think this is a perfect opportunity to trap bulls. In my personal opinion, I think this is a perfect opportunity to trap bulls because bulls are very, very much present, and I think they need to be shaken out. I think market makers are going to eventually want to shake the bulls out at least before Friday, before we see another leg higher. And so the next question is, well, what about this gap all the way at 584? There's no confirmation that we're even going to head there. I mean, there's not really confirmation here besides this reversal pattern here. And well, obviously there actually is more confirmation here because we have a lot of bearish bears in this area. I couldn't think of the word, but you got a lot of bears in this area and a lot of turbulence in this area. So that is one of your confirmations. And then you have you never retested this trend right here, so that's another form of confirmation as well. So yeah, I guess you do have more confirmation that we could see a rollover effect or even a sell off towards the downside, fill this gap at 594. And if we just so happen to break below 589, then I do imagine that we're going to start heading towards this 584 gap fill retest, whatever you want to call it. And so that's what I'm looking at for the SPY. I know that was long winded, but I really want to get you guys to understand on what I'm looking at and why we should be cautious in this area. Okay, very, very, very important area here that we want to look out for. And so we look at the triple Qs. And so the triple Qs has more room to 527, 528. Key level that I've always been telling you guys about is 529, 530. Psych level, we get above that, then I definitely think the sky is the limit. We can definitely start heading towards previous highs. But right now, we are in a very, very tight area. This is actually off a bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, here we go. All right, so Right now, we did form a doji. This just shows indecision in the market right now, or not in the market, but in the triple Qs at least. So it seems like market makers aren't quite sure on where they want to go from here. I was originally worried about this reversal pattern, and originally it was selling off, but it looks like bull stepped in, so that's fine. But we have a little more space towards 527, 528 range, and once again, we're heading towards that area, or we're already in that area where Jerome Powell spoke and pretty much tanked the market. So again, you really want to be careful here. Market makers seem like they are indecisive right now. Currently, after hours, we are up at around 526, but triple Qs something you want to watch out for. And in regards to downside, as long as you're holding above 518, I think you're fine. 515 after that, you give up 515. That's where things can get really scary, and then you can start heading towards 510, 510, 512 range, and then from there, you feel this gap. Well, this gap is at 510. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at if we just so happen to break towards the downside below 515. Again, be very cautious in this area, guys. A lot of bears here. Jerome Powell spoke here. You're going to need Jerome Powell type news in order to break above or through this area and head towards all-time highs. I think that makes sense. I will hope that makes sense. Like in order to break previous news levels or macro levels, you need macro type news in order to break those levels. At least from my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but at least from my experience, that's one thing I've learned about key events and news type events like CPI levels, Jerome Powell levels, things like that. You want equal or better news in order to break past those levels. And so that's what I'm looking at for the triple Q. So let's talk about Netflix earnings because if you follow me on my community tab on YouTube and you have like notifications on, we talked about this, right? I pretty much posted this in the community tab, and it looks like Netflix just did it just give up all of that? Oh no, it didn't. Okay, I was about to say, did it just give up all of that? Oh my gosh. But yeah, so in the community tab, Netflix earnings. Netflix earnings today, is Netflix trying to reach this trend that it never retested in the past? If so, we could see a move towards 980 range for earnings. Now, this was at 8:29 Eastern, my time. Well, no, this was like 9:30 Eastern actually. So I posted this around open, and I was pretty much letting you guys know that Netflix never retested this trend right here, right? And so we go to Netflix chart, and as you guys can see, we go to the let's go to the weekly time frame just to get a better view. So yeah, I pretty much let you guys know that Netflix has never retested this trend. It pretty much broke below, and this is the type of things that I pay attention to for earnings. Has it any stock that breaks a trend or breaks a level or a very important level, has it retested? Has it went back to retest that level? And if not, then there's a good chance that that stock is going to head back towards that level for its earnings. And so we see Netflix broke below this trend and then it slowly started to climb up. And for its earnings, it eventually started to, well, it did head towards this trend and hit 984 right on the mark. So I was really on the money. Not only that, but we go to quant data, right? And I showed Discord members this 5 minutes before it closed, so a lot of them did jump into calls, or a few of them jump into calls. But right here, you look at the Netflix net flow, and you see that whales have dropped their short positions and entered long positions literally right before it closed. You see that the bearish volume switched to bullish volume. So this is a literal cheat code, guys. Quant data link will be in the description below. But if you want it for a lot cheaper and you rather have me pay for it, then you can just join the Discord, $30 a month, and you're paying for all this information that I am paying quadruple for in order for you guys to be successful as traders. But you guys want a free trial. But anyway, yeah, so in regards to Netflix, again, this information is just a literal cheat code. You will have access to this type of information once you join the Discord. But yeah, Bears dropped their I'm not Bears. Whales dropped their short positions, entered long positions. We saw a lot of calls come in on the Discord for Netflix. Specifically, I was paying attention to this call. I put this out in the Discord, or Quant Data alerted us about this call in the Discord. It was actually a lot of calls. So 935 strike calls at the ask. Premium wasn't too great, but we saw a lot of these calls coming in for Netflix around 950 calls. We even saw some for in the 1000 range. So yeah, really good play. Congratulations to Discord members. This was alerted when Netflix was at 864, guys. 864 was when this was alerted. Not only that, but there was also an 870 call that was alerted last week in our Discord. So I mean, you get access to all this stuff, a lot of trades, a lot of things, a lot of calls or alerts on what whales are doing. So yeah, I think it's worth it. You do what you want, but Discord link will be in the description below. If you don't want to join the Discord, then Quant Data link will be in the description below and you can use it for yourself. I think it's worth every single penny. That's just me. I just showed you guys just how powerful it is, but do what you want. But in regards to Netflix, I do think there's potential for a sell-off from this point. We hit this trend, and if we can just get above this trend, then there's hope for more upside in regards to the market. But I think this is a good sign that we could see some type of sell-off happen in the market because I think Netflix announced a stock split. I could be wrong. I think they announced a stock split, but if they didn't, then okay, then I'm wrong. But if they did announce a stock split, I do imagine that whales are going to want Netflix to be a lot cheaper. So from here, I do imagine you're going to start seeing Netflix sell off between tomorrow and sometime this week. I do imagine that you're going to see a sell off. Whales are going to want this a lot cheaper, so they can start buying it up, and then we'll see what happens from there. And so, really, really nice play. Congratulations to Discord members who traded the upside on this. This is an insane move. And so let's talk about Tesla. So Tesla, very, very interesting move here. I honestly wasn't expecting this type of sell-off so soon on Tesla, but it still looks okay. It doesn't look bad or anything. It still looks okay. What you want to see Tesla do is reclaim 425. It seems like it's attempting that after hours, but take that with a grain of salt. It's at 424.75. Again, take that with a grain of salt. You want to see Tesla reclaim 425 right here, this level, this area right here, this zone right here, very, very tough zone to break past. If you manage to get above 430 again, there's hope for a move to 440, but you really want to see us get above 440. And once again, just like I said with Netflix, right? You left this trend, right? And so if we don't retest this for whatever reason, if we never retest this, I think that's a tall tale sign that we can see a potential move up here for Tesla's earnings. Now, Tesla usually doesn't really do great for its earnings, so do your own due diligence. But yeah, if we just so happen to just head further down from here, maybe towards that 360 target that I was talking about, then yeah, I think that's really telling on what's to come for Tesla's earnings. But if we just so happen to break above 440, then I definitely think 500, between 480, 500 is definitely the move because we never retested this trend. Let me actually double check if we actually retested this. No, we didn't really retest it at all. So yeah, I do imagine that this will be the move, if not for earnings. If not earnings, then pretty soon for Tesla. So something to look out for on Tesla. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look great. I just this move, this sell off that happened today is just really odd for Tesla. Why it happened, I don't know. But it's something to pay attention to. It's just a really tough level to break past. That 440 level is really, really tough. In regards to downside, you want to see Tesla hold 410. As long as it stays above 410, I think you're pretty much safe when it comes to Tesla. Let's talk about Meta. So Meta, I said this in the Discord that Meta is really, really tempting for downside here, but I'm not going to jump the gun. I want more confirmation. I don't have a lot of confirmation for downside just yet on Meta, especially if we're talking about Meta buying TikTok. I'm not sure if it actually, first off, my Cthulhu moment for Meta, trash, complete trash. Throw that in the trash. I was so off. I was so wrong. Oh my gosh. And it just goes to show that how the market makes up things, or not even makes up things, but a lot of these companies make up information. I never once thought TikTok was going to get banned. Like, I never felt that. I'm like, TikTok is not going to get banned. I said this on my social media platforms. I said it in the Discord. I'm like, TikTok is not going anywhere. There's too much money on TikTok for the US to give up. Like, it makes companies tons of money. Any company that will let TikTok get banned and not buy it, absolutely insane to me. So the fact that TikTok pretty much said, thanks to President Trump, was just, I just felt like that was such a move to make the president, look good. I could be wrong, but that was just crazy to me. Like, they was like, thanks to President Trump, and it was like 12 hours later they get unbanned, or so-called unbanned, and then they're thanking President Trump. So I think that was just a move to make the president look good. I don't think TikTok was ever in a real situation to ever get banned. I think it was just all fake news. That's just my little, conspiracy theory. You do what you want. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I just thought that was complete BS. But yeah, Cthulhu moment in the trash. We're not even going to talk about it. All right. So in regards to Meta, Meta looks good. Right, I mean, it doesn't look bad at all. My thing with Meta is that it needs to break above 630, 631 for it to see more upside. But as you guys can see, you have this massive rising wedge pattern. I'm really curious to see what Meta does for its earnings. Its earnings is next week, Wednesday, but I'm really curious about this. If Meta pumps into its earnings, I think that makes sense. And then we can see a move, a rejection from up here towards 670. But if Meta just starts to break down, which I think could be the case, we can see some crazy moves towards like 550, 560 range. So nothing really to talk about here on Meta. I just want to bring this to you guys' attention and really just admit that I was wrong on that whole Cthulhu moment. That was insane. Yeah, Meta just completely slapped me in the face. So Apple. Apple. Again, I'm still think Apple is due. I still think Apple is due. Um, First off, we're looking at the daily time frame. This right here, reversal pattern right here. You don't believe me? Look at this right here. Boom, same exact thing, almost like 98% most. Okay, same exact thing here. Okay, so I think Apple is due. Call me crazy. Historically, Apple runs into its earnings. At least majority of the time, it runs into its earnings. It's not always that the case, but very much possible that we see Apple pump from here. Now, I did tell Discord members that if you go to the weekly time frame, we could form a head and shoulders pattern here. So you will have your neckline right here, and again, the head and shoulders pattern isn't confirmed or even formed yet. We don't even have a shoulder over here, but I do think that is very much possible if we do see more downside that Apple hits about 216, 215, test this neckline or hit this neckline right here on the weekly, and then we start seeing a move towards around 240. Highest possibly we can see is a retest of this 250, 248, 250 area before we see a potential lower high and start seeing a sell off. There is a fair value gap up here as well in the 250s range. There was also an alert in the Discord for 250 calls on Apple. Let me see if I can find them. But yeah, someone posted in the chat that Apple had calls like 250 calls. I just can't remember the date exactly. So yeah, here it is. Yeah, this is insane. So Apple, I believe, where's the strike at? Size, notional value, blah blah blah. Yeah, I can't find it. But you just gotta trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Source, trust me, bro. All right. 250. There was like 250 calls, but as you guys can see, a lot of calls coming in. Whales are just continuing to buy shares on Apple, and a lot of these are above the ask. So they're definitely buying up Apple as it drops. I think this is a good sign for its earnings. What possibly could Apple alert for its earnings? I don't know, but if you start seeing Apple pump into its earnings, you heard it here first. Apple historically pumps into its earnings more often than not. And so that leads me to the VIX. I won't go into every single stock today, but let's talk about the VIX and then we'll talk about Bitcoin real quick. So the VIX, again, Discord members can confirm. We're still seeing a lot of calls come in for February and March for the VIX. We're really and right here really close to filling this gap at around 14.8. If not, we probably filled it already. I think we filled it already, or we're really close to it. But yeah, I would be careful here. Just like I said with the SPY and triple Qs, be very careful here. Be cautious. Again, I don't think we're going to see like some massive sell off. It could just simply be a slow rollover effect. We do have news, I believe, coming in on Thursday as well. So maybe that causes the sell off. Whatever the case may be, again, guys, be very careful. I like to give you guys confirmation on my thoughts. I don't like to just say, oh, the market's going to drop or the market's going to go up without confirming or having at least three or more forms of confirmation. And right now, VIX is at its gap fill. And what do we say about gap fills? Gap fills have very strong support and resistance. So a lot of calls are coming in for the VIX between February and March. Now, I want to make something clear here. Just because calls or puts are coming in for stock or even the VIX for a certain date, it doesn't mean it has to happen within that date or month, right? So just because VIX calls are coming in for February or March, it doesn't mean, oh, you have time to wait all the way until February or March. They can play out tomorrow. Okay. It's just whales buying things for either cheaper or they're playing a more safe game. It's the same thing what we do as traders. We look for longer dated contracts. At least I do, unless you're a day trader. But we look for long dated contracts that puts us in a more safe position. Time decay is less affected, or maybe you have better delta or theta, whatever the case may be. It doesn't necessarily mean because VIX calls are in February or in March that we have until February to just sit back and relax and just load up on calls in the market. Okay, so I want to make that clear in case you're new to trading or you just don't understand the whole VIX situation that I keep talking about. And so again, we have like 18 strikes coming in for February and March, 20 strikes. The highest I've seen so far is about 28, which I think is very much possible. Midterm, we're seeing like 22. So this is very illiquid area. So VIX is very illiquid to the upside. I showed you guys in another video that there's a lot of fair value gaps. It's creating more fair value gaps and a lot of illiquid areas to the upside. So it definitely makes sense for calls to be coming in on the VIX. So definitely be careful. Do what you want with this information, but that's what I plan on doing. I'm going to play with caution because I do think we're going to see a crazy sell off. It's just a matter of when. Bitcoin on the money. You guys panicked way too soon. We saw Bitcoin sell off at 99K, all the way to 99K, and you guys was like, "Oh, time to change your video." You're wrong, and like you guys were already on it. I'm just like, brother, it's Sunday. Like we still have a whole nother day into Trump's inauguration. Like if you think Bitcoin's not gonna pump for Trump's inauguration, I don't know what to tell you. Like it was Sunday. Like why are we panicking so early? So yeah, Bitcoin clean bounce off this level. I put this in the community tab as well. I showed you guys that Bitcoin can very much bounce off this level at 99K between as long as it holds 99,500. I did say that Bitcoin needs to hold 103K. And once again, like I've said before, Bitcoin is the ultimate stop hunter. It will stop you out of your positions all the time. All right. It's just a matter of you being diamond hand and wanting to hold them. Okay. So yeah, Bitcoin will always try to stop you out of your position. Yes, it will break a level, but it disrespects key levels all the time. You just have to be 10 toes down. All right. So right now, Bitcoin is showing good signs right here. It looks like it's trying to mount 106K. We've been having a hard time holding this level. If it mounts 106K, then obviously you're heading back to 108K. And then once you can get above 108K, I wouldn't say 108K, but if you can get above 109,500, then you're looking at your cycle level at 110K. Once again, I'm going to say this all the time. Every time I look at Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is going to see 130K this year. I don't know when, but sometime this year, I do think Bitcoin can see 130K. Lowest I'm looking at is 120K. And so that's all I have for this video, guys. Hopefully you got something out of it. Comment your thoughts below. Let me know if you agree. If you disagree, just keep it respectful as always. Discord link is in the description below if you want access to our plays. Other than that, that's all I have. Until the next video, traders, you have a good one.